Good day to everyone. Welcome to Putting the Mind of Christ, the inner work of Christian spirituality. Welcome to the new ones. I advise always to go from the beginning as the place where we are now, in chapter 5. You are loved with an everlasting love. This is your Pastor Yeti. Today I'm going to talk about, as we started yesterday, on the 7 levels of consciousness, the magical consciousness of children. And yesterday we started by the infants. Magical consciousness is the level of consciousness of the young child age 2 to 7. The magical thinking typical of this level includes the polytheistic world of gods, demons, fairies, and other creatures that inhabit the young children's inner world. And if we really look very closely as they watch, for example, Disney movies, other movies where it is fantasy, how they go in. And I know some adults also are very interesting still in the Disney movies, and that is all okay, but the main thing is that you really see that they are so in awe of what happens in that fantasy. And sometimes their room have those creatures next to their bed or on the wall or on the ceiling, because it's their world. The child at this age is often unable to distinguish between the context of its mind and those of the external world. The child's consciousness is still egocentric and believes the outside world revolves around the self. Magical consciousness was the general level of consciousness in the polytheistic, animistic, tribally organized ancient world. Individual consciousness development. At about the age of 2, another spiritual passage begins in earnest. The infant's mind begins to emerge as something separate from its physical, emotional being. Though the beginnings of mental life, the emergence of images might have begun as early as the 7th month. The use of symbols, including language, begins about age 2. The child then develops a magical consciousness and the 2nd level of human consciousness. Magical consciousness is one in which the child cannot clearly distinguish between its own emerging mental images and symbols and the external world. Magical consciousness will usually last until it is replaced around age 7. The renowned child psychologist Jean Piaget noted that the child at this stage will develop magical beliefs. For example, the child may believe that the sun and moon follow us. And if we walk, it is enough to make them move along. Things notice us and obey us, like the wind, the clouds, the night. The child will believe that the sun and the moon are alive and that they obey the child's order to follow him or her because the child wants them to do so. The child egocentrically thinks of everything in terms of his own I. If we ask which of two people walking in opposite directions the son would prefer to follow, the child is taken aback and shows how new the question is to him. Often the child will confuse the name of a person or a picture of a person with the reality of a person. They might have the magical belief that cheering up a person's picture might actually hurt the person. They might believe that saying the right magic words will cause the rain to fall or stop the thunder. When they play hide and seek, they think that because they cannot see you, their head being hidden, you cannot see them even though their legs and feet are sticking out from their hidden place. Thus, they see everything from their own egocentric point of view. In terms of moral development, the child learns what is considered good and bad, or right and wrong in its particular culture or society. But this is not at all the learning of moral principles or laws. It is purely a matter of reward and punishment and sensing of what makes mommy and daddy happy and what makes them angry or disappointed. Gradually, the child begins to realize that its own point of view is not all there. It's not all there is. The child realizes that magic words don't start the rain or stop the thunder. The child realizes that hidden one's head is not enough. He or she begins to appreciate that there are other points of view besides his own. The child's self-centeredness lessens. The child, for example, learns to share. So, just as in the spiritual passages of the archaic level of consciousness, the spiritual full learning of the magical stage of consciousness also involves a lessening of egotism with its assumed self-importance, omnipotence, and narcissism. As I said above, this continual lessening of egotism will be the case throughout the spiritual path until, at the non-dual level, there is no egotism left and the person becomes humility as well as love. And Jesus demonstrated this humility when he asserts that all that he had been given to him by the Father. He also demonstrated it when he asked, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." Luke 18 verse 19. Jesus was not indulging in false modesty. He was never false about anything. He was simply stating the truth. Cultural consciousness development. At the cultural level, magical consciousness is the average and dominant consciousness of most tribal cultures. Tribal members, for example, may not want you to take their picture or tell you their names, fearing that this will give you power over them. Such cultures have transcended, gone beyond, the individual to the kinship level of social organization. But that level is still tied to the physical, the blood relationship. With respect to religion, this is the level of animism, the type of belief system which sees the sky, thunder, and other natural phenomena as alive, and that believes these natural phenomena can be controlled in one's favor by magic words and ceremonies. Maybe for some of you know all these things already as you watched your own children or watched others as parents or grandparents who developed this view by watching and enjoying and sometimes have to correct, right? Anyway, I think it's a beauty to see these things developing from infant to children, and we will move on. So may this be a wonderful experience to all of you, as it is for me, to see how important that we look at certain ages and where we can see how we develop. How do we develop consciousness in putting on the mind of Christ? So, pray over this as you hear this beauty. May God protect you and keep you from all harm. May His light shine upon you and make you safe. Have a wonderful experience and joy and contentment on your path with Christ. God bless. This is your Pastor Yeti. Bye-bye.